relatively recent research has shown that we're still producing brain cells throughout our lives. So what's your take on all of that, for example?
No, yeah, I think that's very important, and I think it's extremely important. In the topic of how we relate to our environment, and I think even philosophically speaking, like
Yeah.
how we develop as people. We are there was this older concept, I think. The mind and body are two separate things, dualism, I think, in the age of Descartes. But,
Yeah, yeah.
as time has gone on, we understand the interconnectedness of all of these things, and we understand that the brain and the nervous system is just a central processing area where it takes in every little input and processes it and tries to tries to protect us and tries to help us make the best decisions that we can. And so some of those things are very rudimentary and automatic. And some of those things I think take higher level processing and have social consequence and other things associated with it. But I think it's very true that as developing organs or organisms, that as we grow up from youth to adulthood, everything that we experience, everything that we see, hear, smell, somehow influences who our future person is going to
Yeah.
be. It
Yeah.
influences like how our body reacts. And I think that's extremely important,
Yeah.
on this topic of pain as well. Like neuroimaging has really pushed the way that we view modern pain and how that works. So when I'm walking around the house in the middle of the night and I step on one of my child's Legos, my spinal cord will have a reflex that retracts my
Yeah.
leg faster than that pain response is then registered in my brain. But if I do it enough times, my brain will start creating a protective mechanism where I can become a little bit oversensitive to it. Maybe I'll step on something and misinterpret it as a Lego and say, ow, that was painful. Or maybe I'll step on something or even start feeling like I'm stepping on Legos or having pain, without those Legos even being there. And I think that's this idea of central sensitization, which is an overprimed or over sensitive nervous system that is translating what used to be acute pain. And now neuroimaging would show responses in our somatosensory cortex and in our sensory regions. But as that becomes a chronic phenomenon, it then moves more to the limbic region and becomes more embedded into context and emotion. And so some would argue from that, and I think it's pretty clear that pain changes over time, and as pain becomes chronic, it becomes more of a learned response.
Yeah.
And so I think that's an important point
I think
to
it
make.
is, and people should really try and understand that point. That like, there's some element we understand this idea of pain as a
Mhm.
warning, if you like, that this thing might cause harm. Don't do it. Like the Lego, and that's why you're having that response to make yourself jerk back, so that just in case. But if you behaviorally train yourself to continually do that thing, it then moves into something else, which is not about an actual threat or an actual event. It's more about how the event is interpreted. And the way I think about it, and you tell me whether this is an appropriate sort of analogy. I'm coming more from the sort of psychological side of things. So there's a saying from behavioral psychology that goes something like this. We're not afraid of the bear. We don't run away from the bear because we're afraid of it. We're afraid of the bear because we run away from it.
Hmm.
And it's that behavioral reinforcement of a cue. Now, that's not advice on how to manage bears or anything like that. You probably
Right.
know much more about bears than I do. But it's that thing that it's also like this sort of why are people afraid of spiders that are
Mhm.
harmless? Because we train ourselves into being afraid of them.
Yeah.
And in a sense, you're saying the same thing about pain in general,
Mhm.
that there's an element of it when it becomes chronic that we have trained ourselves into that response in some way, which is not a victim thing. We're not victim blaming here. We're just saying that
Mhm.
that's actually presents or points to the
Yeah.
possibility of a solution, right?
No, that you're exactly right. And to your point, yeah, it doesn't mean that someone's broken. It just means that the systems that are put in place to protect someone have become a little overprotective. And
Yeah.
that's something that's learned, and to your point, can then be unlearned. And I think to your point about, psychology, that's one of the levers that we understand can be used to help reframe, rewire, utilize the brain's neuroplasticity to change the way that we respond to particular stimuli, including pain.
And when you say moving into the limbic system, the emotional stuff, that's the emotional
Mhm,
world. But it's
mhm,
also where the amygdala sits as
mhm.
fight, flight, freeze. And that amygdala like demands something, doesn't it? It doesn't switch off. It demands a response to its signals. Is
Yeah.
that where it's moving into that sort of area?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So it does and I'll say that for a lot of people it becomes associated again in that sense with with context and with emotion
Yeah.
and with experience. And
Okay.
so I think this is where in a point talking earlier about the different life experiences that we have, where stress, trauma, and other things can
Yeah.
also amplify and complicate this entire
Yeah.
scenario.
Can I throw in another complication as well? And you may not
Please.
be qualified to comment, but there's also, I think, there is some quite clear research and thinking around substance misuse and pain, and how that affects the perception of pain and this move into the limbic fight or flight automated. Feels automated. It's not actually, it's just a programmed response. If you like this video or any of the videos, please don't forget to like, comment, and to subscribe. It really helps. Thanks very much.